And welcome to this week's podcast of Abundant Retirement with me, Tony Roberts. And as always, we are joined by the man with the plan, the greatest voice south of Minneapolis that you've ever heard, Mr. Tony Shore. Tony, how you doing today, my friend?
Oh, Anthony, I'm doing great. Or Tony, I should say. We're both Anthonys and we're both Tonys. How about that?
It's Anthony's, Tony's. All we need is an Italian mobster in between us. We'll be great, man.
You can never have
TNT.
too many Tonys, though, I always say.
It's all good.
It's all good. No, I've been doing good. We were talking a bit before the show about my weekend and how I've been busy working out in the yard, doing some landscaping. How about you, Tony? What have you been up to these days?
I was given a honeydew task over the weekend, and it was basically called cleaning out my garage. And Tony, I don't know what the American people have to do with collecting clutter and junk and anything else that goes along with it, but I literally opened up drawers and cabinets and things like that, and I just look in there and I'm like, why do I have this, and why do I have this, and why do we keep this? And so I filled up about 4 trash bins, and I got about half the garage clean. So and the other half I was told by my wife not to touch because that had all of her stuff over there. So I can't start throwing away her stuff or she gets mad. So anyway,
that is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, it's actually, Tony, we've talked about this before. It's been really weird this year weather-wise, but sometimes I'm feeling like I'm living in Seattle in Kentucky, man. It's not real warm. It's not a lot of humidity, and it just seems like we have an ever presence of rain anymore. It's just all the time. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's raining here right now. We've had that same thing. I don't know what that is. And weather has been kind of weird. So hopefully it'll clear up and we'll have a nice summer though, right?
Oh, I'm sure in 2 months we'll be wishing that it was raining and not 100 degrees and 100% humidity outside. But yeah, we'll try to do what's different.
Yeah.
So hey, listen, what kind of topic do you have today for me to hopefully give some prudent advice on?
Wait a minute now. You're the host. I'm the co-host. You've got to come up. You let me start coming up with topics, and we're going to have some wild shows. We're going to talk about the best pizza places in the Louisville area. We're going to be talking about why chickens hate snowblowers. We'll have some crazy.
Why chickens hate snowblowers. I can only imagine.
Well, that's what I like to do is create a mental picture. No, I know that you and I talked legal planning and retirement. I know you do a lot of retirement planning. You go through the retirement process each and every day with people, and alongside overall financial planning, investments, things like that. But I know that there's a legal aspect to it, and a lot of people think, oh, I don't need to worry about that, or I've got a will. So, but there's a lot more to it, and it's a big mistake people make, right? Not getting this taken care of soon enough and things like that.
Tony, you'd be surprised the number of people that are in their 50s, 60s that we meet with for beginning the process of doing retirement planning, and we're sort of getting our piece put into place, maybe finishing some things up and this, that, and other, and then all of a sudden they'll look at me and they'll say, do you have the ability to help us with putting maybe a will or a power of attorney or medical directives in place and this, that, and the other? And again, I tell them, just like when we start talking about tax, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an estate planning attorney, but we have people that we can reach out to on our team that, again, they're not part of our office. But Tony, whenever you start about, thinking about doing a formal retirement plan, we can handle the financial piece, and again, replacing your income and making sure you don't go broke and doing risk evaluations and, hedging for inflation, looking at tax, talking about long-term care, making sure your legacy set up properly, and all of that stuff. All of that stuff that evolves around the financial piece. We're very blessed to be specialists in those areas. We've got 40 years experience, and we've just been able to help a tremendous amount of people. But with that being said, along with a good financial plan, you've got to have a good legal plan. The last thing you want to have happen is to pass away and have the courts and some attorneys start determining what happens to your stuff. So again, whether it be a will, whether it be power of attorney documents, whether it be those medical directives, maybe some simple trust makes sense. I've got a number of clients who've got some special needs children. And again, they're concerned that if something happens to them, how are these kids going to be taken care of? So again, a special needs trust is a way to go about doing that. But, at the end of the day, Tony, it's all about protecting your assets, ensuring that your wishes are followed, planning for incapacity, secure financial future, healthcare needs, providing for loved ones. All of those things are part of putting in place the legal piece of retirement planning. And again, we don't do it, but I've sat in on enough interviews with our attorneys that we refer to our clients that I sort of know what these people need, what they're going to be asking for, and these are revocable trusts, Tony. They can be changed by you and or a spouse as long as you're living. Once you both pass, though, they flip over to an irrevocable trust or contract, because now you're gone and they want these thoughts are what you want to have carried out. So again, these are just all ways of making sure that not only you're taken care of, but your spouse is taken care of, your children and or other entities that are near and dear to you that you want to benefit are taken care of properly and to the degree and how you want to have it happen. So very important, very important. And again, we don't make anything out of it, but again, I wouldn't be doing my job as a fiduciary if I wouldn't be giving guidance to my clients of saying, hey, look, these are some things that you need to make sure you've got in place along with that good financial plan.
Yeah. So there are a lot of reasons why legal planning is vital and important for retirement, as you mentioned. We need to talk about some specifics too, as far as what does that entail. But the number one thing is not leaving your family in a bad situation, I would say, and then maybe protecting your assets is probably one of the biggest reasons, right?
Well, it's not only the biggest, it probably is the biggest reason.
Yeah.
And again, having access. I'll have families. Well, I'm working with one right now to where mom passed away, sizable estate, and she just didn't have proper beneficiary designation set up, and she didn't have her son on her checking account. So guess what? Everything now goes to the estate. So now the son has to go to the court. The court has to, appoint him as the executor of the estate. Now you go back and start, having to go to the banks and to all the accounts and positioning yourself as the executor of the estate just so you can have access to start getting these assets where they need to be. And Tony, that takes time.
Yeah.
30, 45, 60 days, depends on what the court schedules are and this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And if you don't have that stuff in place, if you don't have a will in place, then guess what? The court starts deciding how your stuff's going to be divided up. And again, if you don't have proper beneficiary designations, it goes to a spouse. If the spouse is not there, then it goes down to children. If the children aren't there, it goes up to parents. If the parents aren't there, it goes sideways to siblings. And if the siblings aren't there, then guess what? They'll just start divvying your stuff up and sort of saying, well, hey, look, maybe we got some nieces and nephews and cousins and things out there. And at the end of the day, Tony, it ends up being a quagmire and a mess. And again, part of what we do is making sure we've got this thing put in place properly for those clients that want to proceed and get this done. So you can avoid that.
Yeah.
you've probably had to deal with death with maybe parents or grandparents, but we all have, and there's nothing worse than having to deal with the loss of a loved one, and all of a sudden you're trying to figure out if you can write a check or not to pay for the funeral, or you know what if you've got that kid at home or children at home or people that are dependent on you. Now that person's gone, how are we going to go to the grocery and buy food? How are we going to pay for transportation? What? It's just so many things that you sit there and back burner this stuff, Tony, and I'll get to it tomorrow, and nothing's going to happen to me, and then boom, all of a sudden it does, and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And I'm working on a case right now to where blended family, one of the spouses owns a business, and the business was supposed to go to their children. But now there's a situation with some illness, and this person is sort of saying, "Hey, look, maybe I want my business to go to my spouse." Well, these are things that need to be taken care of up front, because the last thing you want to have happen is that business going to the spouse, and all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 kids that are sitting there saying, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! I thought this business was supposed to go to me." Well, guess what? Mom or dad needs to be telling the kids, "Nope, I changed my mind. This is what's getting ready to go down, boys and girls." Not right or
Communication
wrong.
is the key.
Not right or wrong, but you better have some communication, or you're going to have some hard looks, hard stares, and probably a lot of blowing up of people not getting along anymore because of heck, Tony, you've seen as much as I have, man. There's nothing that causes disruption in families as much as money. And that's what it is.
It's the number one cause of family problems and relationship issues and family disharmony when somebody passes. Even the closest tight, no, that'll never happen. We're so close. Love my family. I saw it happen to my dad. His dad passed away, and he had 3 siblings. There were 4 kids, and they were so tight-knit, great family, always got together, always got along. And then Grandpa passed away. There was not communication. And, there was some confusion, and now a couple of them aren't speaking to each other.
No, happens all the time.
Sad.
I see it all the time.
You can avoid that, though.
Yeah, well, you can. And again, part of the way to avoid it is being, transparent up front, having communications. And I think our generation, Tony, does a better job with this than our parents and grandparents. I mean,
they didn't talk about money at all with anyone. For any reason.
That Depression era generation, man, they would not talk about money. They didn't want to talk about their wealth or anything else like that. And sure and behold, man, they'll say, "Hey, look, when I'm gone, you all divvy it up." Well, guess what? Sometimes the divvying didn't go up the way everybody wanted it to, and again, it's just like what you said. People start getting mad at each other and going off and doing different things. So and it, Tony, for the most part, this thing's not real complicated. I mean, if you've got businesses involved and other things like that, it can get maybe a little bit more. But for the most part, many people out there just need a simple will. They need a power of attorney documents. Limited and full medical directives. So basically, you can give somebody the power to say, "Hey, look, if I can't make a decision on my health care for myself, then I'm appointing this person to do it for me."
Right.
Maybe some simple trust make sense. Putting assets in trust puts a layer of protection around it. Sometimes you may have a child that doesn't do real well with money. And guess what? If you sit there and leave this person $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000, for passing away, 6 months down the road, the money might be gone. So again, if you put that money into trust, so it will be there on that child's behalf, but allows the trustee to have a lens, so to speak, to look at this and make sure
criteria to get the money, or it's spread out over time. That's what a trust can do. Plus, a trust can help avoid probate court. And like you mentioned earlier, a will is great, but a will go through probate. And a will does not, no matter what you say in the will, if you have beneficiary designations listed on your accounts, right?
Exactly right. Beneficiary designations, for lack of better words, trump a will. Trust trumps a will.
Yep.
So again, I hear this so often. Oh, I've got a will. Well, yeah, you do, but what does the will say? And then what what happens with the underlying assets that are part of the will? So I just it's just a way to go in there and clean up things, Tony. Make sure you've got it tightened up the way you want to, and again, it protects your assets, secures your financial future, not only for yourself, for your spouse, and for your children, to where this thing's not up in the air and just sitting there and going on. So again, it secures your well-being, protects your loved ones. There may be some entities out there that you might want to benefit, whether it be through charitable giving and other things like that. Well, guess what? If you don't write it down or put it into some type of form so that people can recognize what you want to have happen, chances are that charity's never going to see anything, because it's going to be all divided among your closest kin. And again, that may or may not be what you want to have happen. But if it's not what you want to have happen, then you've got to go about designating the proper documents and forms to make sure this thing goes about the way you want it to go about. Because once you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah.
And Tony, I've got some good old clients that say, Tony, if I'm dead, I don't care what happens to it.
Right. Some
But,
people, they say, I
some
want to
people are
bounce
just
my
like
last
that.
check.
But
Yeah.
when you actually get down to it, they do care about what happens to it.
Sure,
It's just
of
they
course.
just don't want to sit there and have to go through, dotting the I's and crossing the T's about what happened. And I'll use myself, for instance, Tony. I mean, and I don't know why this is, but whenever my wife and I travel, for some reason or another, we need to make sure that all the documents are in correct order. I guess we think we're going down on that proverbial plane together or something. But um, I think we were going over to Europe, I don't know, 20 some odd years ago. Well, the girls were small. Well, guess
Yep.
what? If something happens to us when the girls are 11 and 7,
Yeah.
that's a much, much different criteria than if something happens to them when they're 31 and 27. So again, you have to have the understanding and flexibility to put um, the rules in place of how you want things to happen, depending on what's going on with your family. And there's different sets of rules that have to be in play when you've got younger children versus having older children. Also, what's the biggest thing most parents want to do for their kids when we're talking about transferring of wealth is to protect that wealth for their kids and grandkids. And it's not that they don't like their future or current son-in-law or daughter-in-law, but they understand too, we live in a country that's got a 60% plus divorce rate. So again, do we want to have things lined up that if something tragic or happens with a daughter or son and marriage, goes down the proverbial tubes, that an ex-son-in-law or ex-daughter-in-law is not walking out the door with a sizable chunk of monies or assets that you and your wife or husband have worked all your life for to benefit your kids and grandkids, and boom, it's gone out the door with a bad marriage. So you know just things like that are
Yeah.
important to make sure you got them tightened up in place and flexible enough to not only have it to take care of you now, but flexible enough to be able to make changes with it down the road.
Yeah, so it's not only for you now, it's for your loved ones later on, and you don't want to leave them in a mess. I mean, you don't want to leave them a mess, and you can joke about it. I'm going to bounce my last check, and I don't care what happens after I'm gone, but you don't want to do that. You want things taken care of, and you don't want some of these things derailing your retirement as you go on. So you start having problems around money in retirement or with your kids and who gets what, and you want it settled the sooner the better, right? And the more communication, the better. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Tony, you couldn't say it better. The communication is the key. And
Yeah.
again, growing up where I grew up, big farming communities and a lot of things like that. And I saw it a lot. You know, parents have maybe inherited farmland or maybe
Hmm.
worked all their life on the farms and had a lot of farmland. And let's face it, Tony, the farmland today, man, is you got a 100-acre farm today in certain areas of the country. you're talking about sizable amounts of wealth and this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? Sometimes mom and dad may want to have that farm passed down and kept in the family for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Maybe none of the kids want the farm.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be better for mom and dad to maybe sit down and have a conversation with those kids and say, does anybody want this farm? Or myself, does anybody want my business
Yeah.
if I'm gone?
Yeah.
Do you want to step in here, child one, child two, and take over the business, or does the thing get liquidated? Who comes in? Who buys it? These are things you need, and you owe it to yourself. We're talking about, Tony, we're talking about sizable amounts of wealth and assets and money here that you just can't be flippant with anymore. So again, you may have thoughts of how you want things to be carried out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your children have those same thoughts and same parameters. Right. And again, having a conversation about this up front so that you can properly put things in place, maybe align yourself with some buy sales with people that do want to carry on the business, or maybe do want to buy the farmland, or whatever the case may be. And then, being able to take care of the children as well. And again, just maybe the children don't want to be involved with the business or the farmland, but maybe there's another, I don't know, a nephew or a cousin or a sibling or something like that. And I say, well, listen, kids, if you all don't want it, what about if we sell it to, Uncle Joe over here, and Uncle Joe can buy it and he can then, settle up with you guys and do different things like that. Is that an agreement? Again, open communication, Tony, what you just said is very, very important when it comes to doing this. And then the other thing to it, I will, and I know we're probably running up against the clock here, but make sure you sit down with an estate planning attorney.
Yes.
I come from, I come from a place to where a lot of attorneys, in order to survive, are taking care of all kinds of different legal issues. They may be bailing somebody out of jail on Saturday morning and be in divorce court on Monday and doing estate planning or real estate law on Thursday afternoon. They're good people.
Yep.
But sometimes not having that extra 5 or 10% knowledge when it becomes what I call specialized planning work with estates, that's important. And a lot of times that 5, 10, 15% that, Mr. County Attorney with doing everything versus specializing can cost you. So I would tell the listeners today, please go out there, find yourself somebody who eats, sleeps, and drinks estate planning attorney.
Yeah, there's so many specific laws and specific to your state. Find an estate planning attorney in your state. And the first stop is also work alongside your financial professional like yourself, right, Tony. And I know you work alongside estate planning attorneys. So if our listeners out there want to get this taken care of, or get a second opinion, or update what they have, all they have to do is reach out to you, and you and the staff there can talk to them about where they're at with their finances, and as far as their estate or enhanced plan, legacy plan. You at A. Roberts Associates work with estate planning attorneys that can help them, don't you?
Exactly right. I mean, and not only here in Louisville. I mean, we've got a handful of estate planning attorneys we work with here in Louisville, but we've also got people that we can go to in Indiana, in Ohio, in Tennessee, in Florida. Yep. We've got ability to hook you up with people that are have been vetted by us, have been given good referrals by people that they've already helped, and can give you the guidance that you need to make sure that you put the documents in place properly. You have somebody that can sit there and keep up with them year in and year out, make changes as needed. But more importantly, give you some peace of mind to understand that, hey, look, I've got this thing put to bed and I don't have to worry about if something happens to me, this thing blowing up on me. So it's very, very important. And again, I call it my team. Again, they're not part of us formally, but they are just like our CPA friends. I mean, those are people that we can reach out to on behalf of our clients and say, hey, look, if you don't have an estate planning attorney, if you don't have a CPA, here are some people that work with our clients. They do a good job for them. And they can be it can be an asset to you as well, if that's something you want to do.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, Tony, great show today. Important topic. Get your documents in order, get those beneficiary designations done, get a will and powers of attorney in place, and probably a trust. You'll save time, money, and grief in the long run if you do all that. All they have to do is pick up the phone, give you a call. Once again, that number is 888-955-3665. And set up that no charge, no obligation consultation with the man himself, Tony Roberts, and his team there at A. Roberts Associates. Well, Tony, great show today. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Abundant Retirement with our host, Tony Roberts.